Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Never Split Up podcast. This is episode 53. I'm Nolan along with Anthony, and today we're covering Late Night with the Devil. This movie was released in March of 2023 at the South by Southwest Film Festival, all the way back in 2023, and then it got its wide release in 2024. This movie kind of did very well for its budget. It had a pretty good box office, and now it's doing very well in streaming. Me and Ant, we're both on film Twitter, and we see it being talked about all the time. So we figured we have to cover it. We haven't covered a new release in a while, so we're excited to cover this. How you doing today, Ant? What's going on?
I'm doing good. We're getting into the summer season. It was a beautiful day today. No humidity. We got a nice full moon tonight, so I'm excited to talk about a horror movie. I wish we were talking about one I was a little more hyped on. No shade, but I'm excited to talk about it. Excited to get into it.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, we covered the Blair Witch Project, and I thought that was a fun episode. It was,
Me too.
We had very different opinions, I won't spoil it, but go watch that. I thought that was really good. So I think this is going to be maybe a little bit similar, maybe not so drastic as last episode, but as Ant just said, he's not super hyped on this movie, and I know he kind of did his quick Twitter review. You like to do Twitter reviews after you watch movies sometimes, and I saw your comments on that. So I'm not going into this review episode totally blind like we try to do, so I kind of know your thoughts, and I think you kind of know my thoughts, because I believe I posted something as well. But, we haven't talked about it directly yet. We try to keep that for the podcast, so yeah, we're both super excited to talk about this. Why don't you, I don't think we have any housekeeping, right? No announcements or anything?
No, just check out our Blair Witch Project episode. That's the newest one. I also agree that it was a great conversation. And it kind of has some parallels with this movie a little bit with our opinions, but also kind of a little bit of the style of the movie. So check that episode out. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you agree with more, because that's another polarizing movie. And let's just I'm happy to get back to a new release. Like you said, we haven't done one. I can't remember the last new release we did. Oh, we did Pearl, which is kind of recent, but not like 2024 recent.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going from a super divisive movie in the Blair Witch to pretty much universally liked movie, new release with Late Night with the Devil. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts, because you seem to stray from the crowd a bit on this movie. But why don't we start with the cast and crew? Very tight cast. With a smaller budget horror movie like this, you're not going to get a huge cast.
Right. So I'll give you guys a synopsis from IMDb, because it is a newer movie if you guys haven't seen it yet. A live television broadcasted in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. It was directed by Cameron and Colin Carnes. It was written by them as well, and it stars character actor David Desmachin as Jack. We have Laura Gordon as June, Ian Bliss as Carmichael, Lily, we can't forget Lily, Ingrid Torelli as Lily, Riz Alteri as Gus. Oh, poor Gus, love him. Georgina Hay as Madeline. And that's like, we have some other small actors. We have pretty much a TV crew. But that's the gist of the main characters. So like Nolan said, a tight cast, and like the concept is cool. It's like we're seeing the unseen footage of a live broadcast. I love the 70s aesthetic. So yeah, it's a nice, quick little movie too. We love our 90-minute horror movies.
Yeah, I believe the official runtime is like an hour and 25 minutes. So super quick, under an hour and a half. For a movie like this, I think that, a lot of times I feel like with indie movies, especially ones where the directors have a little bit more control and they like edit their own movies, they could be a little long in the tooth. So I'm glad to see that a movie like this is under an hour and a half. Not that we dislike longer movies, but for something like this kind of genre, subgenre, I think it works well for a movie like this for sure. So, okay, cool. Let's get into our overall thoughts. I'll go first. Since I think you've gone first the last couple times, and
Okay.
yeah, I love this movie. I really do. I just rewatched it again. I was a little nervous because I had a pretty awesome experience the first time I watched it. I didn't see this in theaters or anything. I saw it at home with the lights out by myself. And this isn't a movie that I say you need to watch with the lights out because it's super scary. I just think it adds to the ambiance and the vibe. I think the strength of this movie is how well they produce this late night style, and watching it at night is almost a must because of that. I obviously love our leading man, David Dismalchian. He steals the show. Well, I don't know about steals the show, but he really carries the movie, and he has to, right? Based on this script, he's the late night host. He was born for this role almost. I mean, there were a couple times where I'm thinking, like, man, maybe he should have his own late night show. He really was good, like with his opening monologue and stuff and the punchlines. So he does great. I love that. So back to my original point. But the second time I watched it, I was a little afraid that I wasn't gonna have the same kind of, kind of get lost in the world and lost in the ambiance. But I did. I fell right back in. This is such a vibe. And I feel like that's why this movie is resonating with a lot of people, a lot of horror fans, is because it commits so fully to its aesthetic, to its script, and everything. All the actors are awesome for what they have to do. And I think the script is really good. Like we said, it's under an hour and a half. I think one of the strengths of this movie is its pacing. I never feel like it drags. I think the pacing is super, super solid. And it's a movie that I could give my full undivided attention to and enjoy. But it's also a movie that I feel like, a few months from now I can throw on while I'm on my phone, like at nighttime and something. Because, like I said, it's almost like a late night show. I mean, it pretty much is supposed to be one. So I can watch it in that style too because of, the amazing set design and the costumes. I mean, it just takes you right back to what it would maybe be like in the 70s. So, and I love the little, how they blur the lines between fact and fiction. I mean, they're talking about Johnny Carson the whole time and, who's obviously a real person. And the the intro, I love the intro to this movie with the announcer, like the documentary style announcer. That guy, I don't know the voice actor, but I feel like he puts you in such a mood to get you ready to watch a 1970s like documentary late night show.
Instantly
His voice,
transported there.
yeah, his voice is so like I like 80s, 70s, 80s. I don't know what it is, but kudos to that guy. I don't have his name offhand, but he really sets the tone to this film. So I really love the intro. And yeah, there are like slight problems I have with parts towards the end. I do like the ending overall, especially like the very end, but there are some stuff leading up to it that I wish maybe they went in kind of a different direction or, just handled it a little differently. But those are very minor. I really enjoy this movie a lot, and I'm excited to kind of get into it and see where we differ because it seems like you're not as big a fan. So, yeah, why don't you tell me your overall thoughts because I'm excited to get into this.
So do you love it? Is it like one of your favorite horror movies like all of Twitter is saying, or is it just like a really like you really enjoy it? Like this
So
movie's getting hyped.
I try not to have super reactionary opinions on
Recency
a movie that
bias,
just
yeah.
recency bias, and everyone has recency bias, but I try not to categorize it in that way. I do love this movie, but I'm not gonna say that it's like an all-timer for me because it's just too new.
Okay, good.
Like I would never do that. That's unfair. I need to sit with it.
Like
yeah.
Okay, I was just curious because some of these reactions I'm like, really? Okay, but
Yeah.
so speaking of recency bias, obviously, we're on Twitter, we're on, social media, so I'm like seeing all these rave reviews, and I don't want to, spoil anyone's party. I love when people love film, but
Mhm.
after I was able to see it in the theater. I did go to the theaters to see this movie,
Nice.
and it reminded me, and this is not a bad thing. It reminded me of like a feature-length Twilight Zone / Creep Show mashup, like a full episode of that, and it transports you, like you said, instantly back to the 70s. It has my favorite part about the movie is the 70s aesthetic. And I do agree with you. I think that's a lot of the reason why this movie is getting praised, because of how much you feel that vibe.
Mhm.
But I don't think that should automatically give the movie a pass as one of, like, the best horror movies of the year. And I do think I see a lot of people like instantly going to that point of why they love it so much. But you have to have a movie to back it up. And I think the main reason the movie works, at all for me is David Dalsmachin. He's perfect in the leading role. I don't think that anyone else could have done it better. And I think that if there's one thing I really love about this movie is that it really pushed him to leading man status, I hope. And I hope we see him in more leading roles. But I do sense a cult following for this one because it did well, but it's not like it was a blockbuster. So I do see this one like, having like a October Halloween vibe, because I do appreciate that, it takes place on Halloween,
Yeah.
1977. I'm always going to be a sucker for a movie that takes place on a Halloween night. But I don't love it. I do respect it, but I don't love it. I think it has its problems. I think it's funny that last week we talked about Blair Witch Project, and I said how I appreciate the build-up, and I appreciated that it kind of stayed in its sense of reality, and that's why I didn't mind that nothing went like super full throttle and over the top. But in this movie, we do have, and this is not a bad thing, but we do have some of the hokey CGI effects, and it goes a little bit cuckoo, which I'm all for it. Like, this is, bring it on, bring it on. But I think that because it has scenes like that, that when we did get to the payoff in the third act, I was left wanting more, because it showed that it's willing to go there, but it also kind of just ends. It gets rid of, the killing's done in like a minute. All the characters are taken out pretty quick. And I do agree with you. That part I have problems with, but I do like what follows the killing, going back to our lead character. That's like my favorite part of the ending. But I do think that the ending feels like abrupt and rushed once we get like really going, because throughout the movie we have kind of these like cool, wacky sequences, and then we kind of get there and it's like, okay, we're out of time. Let's end it. Let's be done. So it does bum me out at the ending. I don't think the payoff is justified with the slow build up. And yeah, I just think that I wish that they almost stayed on, like we fully stayed in the live broadcast the whole time. I wish it didn't break the whole like live footage, found foot, whatever you want to call it, aspect the entire runtime. I think that would have been really cool. And I think that we're given a lot of hints, we are, what is it called, the Grove, that like Jack regularly visits the Grove with a bunch of men and stuff. So we're kind of given hints to what, like, it's not a twist, but they don't tell us straight up what's going on. But I guess, what was going on in the ending once we were introduced to what Jack does in his off time. I figured out what he did in the end, and the title of the movie helps too. But yeah, so I have issues with it, but I don't hate it. I like it and I respect it, but I'm nowhere near these people who are calling it, the best of the year. I love it so much, one of my favorites. But yeah, it's a cool little flick. Like I said, it's a feature-length Creepshow episode, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'll rewatch it, and I like it a lot, but I don't love it at all. It's a solid movie for me.
Okay, yeah. When you asked me before about like best ever, I'm not going to put it in that category, but I will say that
No, I know you won't, but I see people say it. Yeah.
It's gonna be in my top for the year for sure. It's gonna be probably top 5 easily
for the year, though, for 2024. Not
well,
for
yeah,
like,
that's yeah. Because that's what you were just saying, how people were saying it's going to be the best of the year.
Yeah, I get that, but I see people saying like one of the best horror movies ever made. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're always gonna get those fringe people. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not gonna go that far for sure. Yeah,
I don't think this movie's scary.
No, it's not, and I don't think it really. I've seen some critiques of this movie. You're not the only one. I did see a few threads on X. People critiquing some of the stuff that happens, particularly at the end with the wife, like the ghost wife and stuff, and how it's cheesy and corny. I think they kind of not missed the point, but I think they took it differently than how it was intended. But we'll get into that. I don't want to jump ahead too far. So what did you think about? You didn't. Oh yeah, go ahead, real quick.
I'm happy you brought, because now just a quick note. I'm now seeing, because I guess people are being very civil about this movie, but I am seeing, like, after the hype died down, I am seeing people more comfortable coming out on Twitter saying that, they weren't, like, it wasn't their favorite of 2024, and they do have some issues with it, and they're kind of more on, like, the my side, where it's a fine movie, but it's not, like, they don't see what everyone else sees. So I'm starting to see more of a pickup of that as well, so we kind of are starting to get the little bit of a slip. It's still mostly favorable, but I'm starting to see the people slowly come out of the woods, and, we're seeing more diverse opinions, I should say, than, best of the year. That's it.
Yeah, and that's, you can say what you want about social media and how toxic it is, but that's also the beauty of it, too. I mean, you could get these reactions from fans all over the world, and you're going to find your people on every single horror movie. There's going to be someone who loves, this movie. There's going to be someone who hates this movie. There's going to be someone who hates the Blair Witch Project the same as me. There's going to be someone who loves Halloween. I don't know, man. My lowest score ever. So.
I know. So
yeah, no.
No, it's the nature of it. That's why we love these movies. Why we love film, because it would be boring if we all thought the same thing of every movie that came out.
So another point that you brought up that I want to tackle first as we get into this movie, and obviously spoilers ahead, guys, because this is a new release. We definitely recommend you check it out before we go forward here. So you just pause the episode and check out this movie. I definitely recommend it. No,
watch it. Watch it. It's worth the watch. Okay. But it's, in my opinion, lower those expectations. Don't go into it with, a shit ton of hype. It's a good movie, but it's not amazing in my opinion.
I think it's amazing, so go into it with the hype, guys. But no, my point was I wanted to bring up, you said that you're not a huge fan of the behind the scenes stuff, like the black and white stuff between cuts. What did you think of the intro? You kind of said that you liked the intro as well.
I did like the intro a lot. Okay. I did like the intro. It immediately, like I said, it immediately brought me back to the I wasn't alive in the 70s, but I was transported there instantly. I just like the documentary style of the opening, because it's like, and obviously it's investigating an unexplained event that occurred. They're leading to it up and going to that. So I like it. I think it worked, especially for this movie specifically. I think it really pulled me in immediately. I was invested, like, right away. I was pulled into the movie with the opening. So that was a smart choice that the directors made on how to open it.
For sure. And going into this movie, I didn't know too much about it. I saw, like, some trailers and snippets. So I thought it was going to be a straight up broadcast. So I was actually pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, because I feel like you got a sense like the viewer was like we were part of the crew almost, and we were just going between takes every time they counted us down, and they're like, all right, we're on in 5, and they cut to the graphic, and then it made it feel more real, like we were with them. I probably would have liked it the other way too, because that stuff works for me too, where it's a straight broadcast. There's some stuff that I've seen in the past, like horror stuff, where that works really effectively. But I don't think this doesn't work. I think this works in a different way. And I know you said you're not a huge fan of it. I guess you wanted something more straightforward, where it was just like the broadcast that aired on
live
TV.
In the broadcast. I want to just live in the broadcast.
I like the angle they had. I thought it was pretty cool, unique, and how it was all in black and white, which was pretty cool. It kind of differentiated.
I don't hate it. I think it would have been also cool to just be like, live in the episode and that's it. Like, that would have been really cool.
Yeah, it also adds some depth and some layers to our characters, for sure. You said your guy Gus, you love Gus. You see
Gus.
him freaking out backstage, like towards the end of the movie, and like you're like, dude, Gus, get out of there! Like, trust your instincts, man.
Gus got done dirty,
and you can tell that it's a very different Jack Delroy behind the scenes too. So you don't get the Jack. I mean, I don't know how you take his character by the end of the film, but
there's different interpretations of the ending.
I think his wife dying broke him, and he just became like a shell. And the Jack Delroy that we know on this broadcast on Halloween night, what was it, 1977? is just a shill that wants to overtake Johnny Carson. I don't really think he has anything left in him. And I think you see snippets of that when he's talking to, the producer guy backstage and stuff. And he's talking to especially June, because you can tell that him and June have a relationship almost, the way he's comforting her backstage. But he's comforting her not from a place of love, from a place of, ratings and trying to save his show. So I think that adds a layer to Jack, too, that kind of makes him not as lovable, which I always like when they add layers like that.
Agreed, he's a complex character for sure. And in my opinion, he didn't choose to sacrifice his wife, but obviously he was indirectly responsible for her death because of, the deal that he made during the ceremony with the demon. He's for his success. So I don't think that because at the end of the movie, it's kind of like, did he give up his wife for success? But no, I think that it was just something that happened because he made the deal for success that something bad was going to happen. He didn't know that it was going to be his wife dying. That's why at the end she kind of begs for him to end it, and then that's tricking him to obviously what he does at the end, who he actually kills. But yeah, he's a fascinating character. Like you said, he's likable, but he also is unlikable at the same time. And that's why I think you need an actor like David Dastmalchian to pull it off. So I think he is the bright spot of the entire movie, obviously, his performance.
I also believe that Jack, once his wife dies, he's not coming to terms with it in terms of he might have caused it. I still think
not yet.
He doesn't think that the Grove or anything is real.
That's the Grove, sorry.
He just think I assume he just thinks it's like a place where he can just have valuable connections and there's influence and power. I don't think he buys into all the rituals. It sounds to me like he just did it just to if I play along, maybe these people will help me with my show. He's looking to the actual humans to further his career, not these satanic whatever they are rituals that are going on. But exactly, and he didn't think there would actually be a sacrifice. And even after his wife died, I don't think he connected the two and put the two.
Which is why I like the ending, the ending so much, because all his reality is coming back to him. Oh my god, what did I do?
Yeah. Oh, the ending's great.
The last 2 minutes are really cool.
Total Halloween 3 vibes I got. With the ending.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome with him screaming at the camera and stuff. And
yeah.
The hypnosis, the spiral going. That's so good. Yeah, I love it too.
It cracks me up when the movie opens, just before it even starts, the 10 studio and production logos. It reminds me of the Family Guy skit with Peter and Brian at the theater. When is the movie? I saw it in theaters and people were laughing about the 5th logo that came up. It was so funny.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's also, I'm glad that this movie was made, because it shows you how desperate they were for funds.
How hard it is, and how hard it is to make a movie. But I was just cracked up. I'm another one?
There had to have been at least 6, right? 5 or 6.
Dude, I think there were 9. I think there were 9. Yeah. That's trim another 5 minutes off the runtime.
Yeah, it's easy to not really realize it when you're sitting at home. But I bet when you're in the theater and you're waiting for the movie to start.
People were literally what is happening? Okay, it's starting. Oh, another one. It was just cracked me up. It was a good way to start it. But no, it's kudos, because it took them a lot to make the movie and they got it made. But that cracks me up. But yeah, I think the intro to this movie is very well done. It's one of the high points.
Mm-hmm. I want to give a shout out to Carmichael, played by Ian Bliss. He was one of my favorite characters. Carmichael. He is super jaded, super pretentious, and I'm not sure if you're aware of the real-life person he was portraying. There's a guy named James Randi, the Amazing Randi, who was a real-life magician who they pretty much... They even said, I already saw a quote, they directly took him, and he had an infamous appearance on the Don Lane show in, I believe it was 1980, early 1980s, where he does this exact thing. His whole claim to fame was he would offer $1 million to anyone who claimed to be a psychic or, talk to the dead, and it was pretty much just think Carmichael. Only he was less of a villain than Carmichael is. Carmichael's kind of an asshole the way he's portrayed. But anyway, James Randi, there's a documentary called An Honest Liar that I really recommend, so check that out.
I'll have to check it out.
But anyway, he was on the Don Lane show, and the host, Don Lane, got really pissed off at him and was defending his guest because he went on. There was some, like, spoon bender. I believe his name was Yuri Teller, and he, like, claimed to, like, bend spoons with his mind. So James Randi went on the show and, like, pretty much debunked it in front of everyone. And the host got like super pissed off and like walked off on him and stuff. So the makers of this movie said that they were thinking of that particular episode when they wrote this script. So shout out to Carmichael and shout out to James Randi. He passed away recently. He was like in his 90s when he passed away, but what an amazing man. Definitely recommend An Honest Liar documentary. It's so good. I believe it was on one of the streaming services
for sure
when it first came out.
That.
But yeah,
Carmichael is a super skeptic in this movie, and even when shit's happening, he's like, "Oh no, you're fucking around." I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Shit is happening, man.
Yeah, but you know, he backs it up. I appreciate that. He backs it up.
He does. He always has an explanation.
Yeah,
always has an explanation after he's like, "No, that was blah blah blah." No, you're doing. I'm like, dude.
Yeah. He's very realistic because he's one of those skeptics that are so into skepticism that they become like pompous and jaded, where they're just making fun of everyone. And I don't think that's healthy or productive, but I do see that a lot in a lot of people that are like Carmichael in real life. So although it was a very dramatized version of the real life James Randi, because he was actually not that brutal and kind of pompous. I think the character plays well in the movie. I think Carmichael is super funny.
Well, especially for a movie like this, that it is like the tone, like it's serious at times, but it's in on the hokiness at the same time as well, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's kind of all of the above. Mm-hmm. It's not taking itself too seriously, because it does get a little like cuckoo and wild as it goes on.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that, and I mentioned it before. There are some people that I've seen that I kind of criticize this movie, and they talk about, you know, some of the scenes and shots, particularly with Madeline, when she appears, when they go frame by frame, and she appears behind Jack. I think people were taking that, and you saw it in theaters. I didn't see it in theaters, but that was never meant to be a jump scare. And I think some people thought it was like a lame attempt at a jump scare. But I watched it back just now, like earlier today for the episode. I watched the movie back thinking of that. And I'm like, maybe I saw this the first time. But no, it's not supposed to be a jump scare at all. I mean, it's supposed to be maybe like a little unnerving. But I didn't know how you thought about that, especially because you saw it in theaters. She's actually in the
background a lot of the movie. Like, you see her, like, we don't, like, she's not in focus, but she is in the background a lot. And that, for me, like, I've seen people complain about the CGI, but I actually don't, I mean, I'm fine with it because, like I said, I'm fine with the movie going. It's supposed to take place in the 70s. It has that aesthetic. I'm fine with it being, like, hokey and a little corny because that's kind of the vibe, like, you know, that's the vibe of the movie for me. So I don't really have a critique on that. And as far as that scene and her goes, I think that fits in with the special effects of the movie. I mean, they're not great special effects, but I think it's almost purposeful.
Yeah.
They're not great special effects.
I feel like people maybe saw like so much, all the love that this movie was getting, and maybe they thought it was something different than what it was. And it was supposed to be this super scary film. And I think they maybe just went in with the wrong mindset. Because, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page with that, at least. Yeah.
Because like we said, I don't think this is scary, and that's one of its... Like I said, if you're going to go the opposite way and be this over-the-top hokey, go all the way. And that's just that's one of the downfalls. It doesn't go, like, all the way with it. But no, I don't think that to me, I have no problem with that scene or the CGI because the movie is trying to be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned a few comparisons. I love the franchise VHS. I just think of it as one long VHS segment. That's the vibes I get. Yeah, especially
it fits in with that too.
Where it's just the director
because VHS is the newer Creep Show, pretty much.
Pretty much,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
So I
Oh,
always,
cool. I didn't even bring that franchise into
And
it.
it is
That would fit well
VHS
into a
tape,
segment
so
of
it
VHS.
does kind of fit in.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great comparison. Oh,
Yeah.
did not. It fits into that franchise a lot. I do have like
Definitely.
ups and downs with that franchise too. So.
Oh, of course, everyone does, and that's what kind of makes it
Yeah.
fun, though. That's what makes it unique. That
Yeah.
franchise. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, this would fit in that franchise perfectly. I feel like
So let's talk about Lily.
Lily,
My
my
girl, Lily.
girl.
I think some of her best work, the actress Ingrid Torelli, was her introduction before she
Okay.
gets possessed, and her creepy stares at the camera and stuff. Again, it's not supposed to be like, super scary where you're clutching your pearls, but it's unnerving enough to where okay, this girl's fucked up, like something's gonna go down. It's almost like, she has a story of Mr. Wiggles, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it's almost like this Mr. Wiggles is always there, just
Yeah,
like
Mr.
waiting.
Wiggles. Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily buy the whole split personality. She's Lily and then she's Mr. Wiggles. I think he's kind of always there controlling her and her movements.
You think he's always hurt, like he's part of her the whole time?
Yeah, because the way I interpret this movie is everything was planned by the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had the audience members that were part of the Grove. Yeah, so we come back to that, and the fact that she's always looking for the camera at the beginning, I think she's very purposeful and she's very intentful on getting an audience to help him with his ratings. So yeah, I think she's being controlled pretty much the whole time by this entity. We'll call him Mr. Wiggles. And I think June is just kind of, she's her caretaker. So she's maybe a little bit too close to her, has a little bit too much empathy for Lily to really see what's going on. And, she has her worries, she has her doubts. She ends up saying, like, I regret doing this, bringing her on TV, but, she's
also on the flip side, she's also her latest subject, so it's not like she's not all great either, June.
Yeah.
Like,
I always thought that was weird. I don't think that would ever happen in real life. Like, you have a doctor has test subjects and they become the caretaker of the test subject. That's a weird... I don't know.
Well, this was the 70s, man. Who the fuck knows what's going on?
That's true. That's true. I
will agree. I like that it's more subtle before she goes like full possessed. Because again, if you just introduced her right away and she's possessed, I don't think it has much of an impact. Like many exorcism movies, like the ones that work, there's a little bit of a build up, and this one at least has that little bit where she's just if other characters are speaking or communicating. If you look over at her, you're right. She's in the background, kind of just like taking notice of everything. And her facial and eye acting is actually very well done. So I will say before she goes, like not typical, but kind of typical possessed and does her shit, makes her like vulgar comments and everything. I do appreciate that little build up, and I do think she's also Mr. Wiggles the whole time. It's him controlling her like the whole time. Mm-hmm. He's in there the whole time.
Yeah, it's an act, and that's why she feels so fake, like she doesn't know. She's almost robotic in her answers and the way she looks. I think it's because it's the this entity trying to act human, I guess, before the big showtime, before the big reveal.
And poor Christo, the medium, he doesn't make it long in the movie at all.
Christo, yeah. So it's funny because you get the two sides of it, right? We start off with Christo to start the show, and that guy's a total fraud. He's fishing for audience members. He's doing cold readings. You could tell he's a fraud. But then I do think his vision with Madeline going, that was obviously real. I mean,
well, because he says the nickname,
he says the nickname
or whatever.
It freaks him out. I think because it never actually happened to him before. So he's like, oh wait,
like you said, he was a fraud, and he's like, oh my god, this is what is happening right now. It's actually
exactly
doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
No, I 100% agree.
So the fact that we get him at the very beginning, it kind of sets the tone of skepticism, and how Carmichael. We're kind of almost on Carmichael's side, at least in the beginning with Christo. But I think that guy did a great job. He has that look. He does. That look. He actually looks like, not to go back to the real life comparisons, he actually kind of looks like Yuri Teller. I think it's Yuri Teller or Yuri Geller. the spoon bender. He has the same look, the same complexion. If you Google him, it's actually kind of funny.
Okay.
I don't know if they did that on purpose. They probably did, but
How do you feel about him dying off camera? I mean, we do see him throw up and like that black liquid and stuff, but he's pretty much taken away, and then we're just informed that he died, like in the ambulance.
Well, yeah, I think that was necessary because
Okay.
they would have cut the show if he died like on set,
Right.
you know, like in
Right.
front of the cameras. So I don't think they really had an option there, unless they like waited to kill him towards the end of the movie. But
Right.
no, I thought it was fine. Why did you not like how
Okay.
it was off camera?
No, I liked it. I just thought he might have exit staged a little bit too quick, but I think it's fine because we got to see him like in that
Yeah.
uneasiness and throwing up. I didn't need to go see a death scene in the ambulance, so I think it is
No.
fine that they once he was out, we knew like he's throwing up black shit, like he's a goner, like he's done.
Yeah, and once we get Lily and June on set, it kind of gets a little crowded with Jack and with Carmichael and Gus kind of all sharing screen time. So
Right.
I don't think he would have really fit anyway. It would have been a little bit too crowded with him there, you know.
Yeah. I just love how they cut and switch segments right after that happened to Lily. I'm like, oh god, really? So stupid. But it's good. But we should mention that Lily is like she's the sole survivor of that mass suicide committed by the Satanic Church. So she has some obviously she has some funky stuff going on.
Yeah, that was the one scene that kind of almost took me out of it. The shots of the house with I forget what the cult is called.
Yeah.
It was very cliche and very
called.
Yeah, it was very satanic panic,
Typical,
and just typical. I don't know. It's fine, I guess. I guess they kind of had to do that.
Right, nothing unique about
background for her, but nothing unique about it, and it almost kind of took me out of the vibe a bit. It was kind of I feel like it was shoehorned in there just so we can find out what her backstory was. I feel like it could have just been said. We didn't really have to see it. So
right,
that might be the one moment in this movie where it almost loses me, but then it's not long enough to where it does, so it's fine.
Right,
but it is kind of like you said, it's a little cliche.
I think it's so funny that June brings Lily on like on a talk show host that's on Halloween night about like satanic occults, and she's like giving Jack warnings like, we're not gonna conjure anything. Like, if you're sure you want to conjure, it's like, bitch, what did you expect? Like, to not put on a show when you brought her on?
Yeah, right. And the way our lovely voice actor at beginning described it, Jack was fucking desperate. He was doing some wacky shit on that show.
Right.
The year prior, like after he came back after Madeline, because he was desperate for waiting. So
he bended his morals a little bit, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he had like the midget arm wrestling and all that stuff you see. So yeah, I mean that's.
But yeah, I'm like, girl, what did you expect? He's putting on a show, man.
Yeah, I know.
I guess we can start getting to the possession stuff then. Once Lily starts to get possessed, how do you feel about like her possession scenes?
I thought it worked. I liked this more than her final look. And that's
okay.
That's the main gripe I have with the ending is her final look. I don't like how her head splits apart because it
takes away from her. You don't see it.
It does, yeah. Because while it's not Lily at that moment, I still would have liked to see more of Lily. It would have made it a little bit more creepy. And I know it's not supposed to be super creepy, but. We'll get to that. I do like this a little better. I mean, it's still grounded. We're still building up to that zany wonkiness. You get the eyes are really creepy. You get the kind of her hair becomes dirty all of a sudden. It's like a typical, Reagan from The Exorcist. She's got the cuts on her face. It's pretty typical, but I thought it worked. I thought it was just enough to make everyone around their reactions believable, because on one hand you had Jack saying, how do you explain that? Did you see the cuts on her face? But it was subtle enough to where you still had a Carmichael or someone else saying, oh, that could have easily been, them fucking with you. So I think they rode that line pretty well. I think it was clever, and because this is our first real moment of like possession or anything like that, I think because it was tamed, it helped that build up. So I think it worked. I liked it. What about you?
Okay. No, I liked it. It was a fine, first possession. I like how she made like a kind of the reference to Jack of like meeting him before under the tree. So obviously, like we know that Jack is gonna end up having a connection to. Obviously, I mean we're not stupid. We've seen plenty of horror movies, but Jack has a connection to this, demon, Mr. Wriggles. So we get that right off the bat that Mr. Wriggles knows what's up. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think I do think her possession scenes. It's so funny because last week I was like, oh, everything was like pushed enough to the point, but now this week I'm like, I do wish that her possession scenes, like the segments of her possessing the possession, I wish they went on a little longer and we got a little bit more from it, which is funny because last week I was saying the opposite. But again, because this movie goes there with the over the top, I do think that we could have gone a little bit more. But overall, it's fine. It doesn't stand out from the pack, of the 8,000 trillion million Exorcism movies we have, but it's fine. But it's no like, Exorcism, Emily Rose, or The Exorcist, obviously. But it's not trying to be. It's just trying to be fun. It's fun enough.
I actually, as you're saying that, I'm actually glad that they didn't go too much with turning this into a straight up exorcism movie, because I feel like that would have hurt the film, because like you said, we do have 8 million exorcism movies. So I feel like because it was shorter and a little bit more grounded, it didn't turn into that. And I love Lily as Lily, so we got to see more of Lily just being super creepy in the background. So that's kind of why
that was more effective to me than the actual possession scenes. Obviously, her in the background, like just sitting there waiting, or you're like waiting for her to do her thing. I agree. That's more.
Yeah, and that's fine with me, because I'm glad it didn't go into that full-on possession movie where you have this long, extended half-hour, 20-minute sequence of her being possessed and causing chaos. I'm glad that it kind of just when you thought that maybe Mr. Wriggles had taken over for good, she kind of snaps back and she's Lily again. So I do like that they kind of did it a little bit more tamed, for sure. And then we get the real zaniness, that when Carmichael really flexes his muscles to not only everyone in the studio audience, but people at home too, the viewers.
Oh, the hypnosis demonstration.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So I thought Gus was awesome in this scene.
Gus. I fucking look. Gus is my favorite character. I feel so bad for him. I do like this gag. I liked a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was very unique. I loved the fact that they go back to the tape and you just see Gus just acting like a fucking idiot.
Right.
It's fucking great, yeah. Oh man.
But the
creature that comes out of his eye
in the studio. Oh my god, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah,
that was the best
cool.
part of it.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, because you're sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? Like, all right, here we go. And then you realize it's a gag. And you're like, oh, shit. All right. I guess we're not going there. Yeah, I liked it, too. I thought it was funny.
No, yeah, this was my high point of the movie. So that's why I kind of, after this, it's good for the rest of the movie. But I think that this was, like, the coolest. Like, okay, that's a cool gag they did. I like that. I like that. They went there with it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and then you get, like you said, them showing the tape back. My first time viewing, I didn't know what to expect. I thought Carmichael was going to get bamboozled or something, and something was going to happen there. But no, they just kind of play it straightforward. Gus makes a fool of himself, and Jack feels a little silly. And then that's when Lily takes over, and she's like, why don't we show the tape of what happened to me, Jack? And this is the moment, right? So this is, if we were in any doubt of Jack before, this is the moment when we knew Jack would do anything for the ratings, because they were supposed to wrap it up. They were supposed to have their musical guest come on. He cancels it while live on TV. The poor guest, I forget what the singer's name was. But imagine, dude, getting all dressed up and getting your makeup on and getting ready.
Pissed.
Oh my god, man, I would be pissed too. So yeah, he makes the decision. We're gonna hold it here. We're not gonna cut to the musical guest, which I thought was pretty sad. That I was like, oh man, that sucks. I wanted to see some music. Really get into the late night vibes.
And I actually like how Jack, he's kind of like really horrified and like freaked out when he does see Maddie and Maddie's ghost behind him when he looks back at the footage. But of course, Carmichael's also accusing him again of like orchestrating it all, and it's Carmichael still being Carmichael. But I like that Jack's like, oh my god, like, you know, this is something's going on here. And I think that's also why he kind of keeps pushing forward, because obviously he saw the ghost of his dead wife. That's an aspect of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it. I thought that this was like a full circle moment for him. Seeing his dead wife. I think this is when he's starting to connect the dots, maybe. That maybe something's going on with the Grove and with spirituality.
With all this,
I don't even know if he fully believes in spirituality. You know, he's
right.
We know that he's doing this episode for ratings. He's not doing it because he believes all of this stuff, and he is gullible enough to believe, you know, Christo and stuff. But does he truly believe, or is he just putting on a show for the cameras? You know, so I thought this was good. I love the buildup of Jack's character in particular. We talk about buildup of the movie, like what physically happens with some of the, like with Lily and stuff. But I love the buildup of seeing Jack and the ending, like we said, is so good because it builds all the way up to this montage, and it takes you through all of his like past episodes and stuff. And it's this weird, like you said, Twilight Zone-y.
That's so Twilight
episodic,
Zone.
Yeah, like sequence, and it's so brilliant. But before we get there, we get the part where
I will say though, while you're thinking, I do think the buildup of Jack's character works for me in the payoff, but the buildup of the movie and the payoff does not, if that makes sense. Like, I buy Jack's buildup and his ending, but the movie, I think, failed for me building up and doing its payoff.
Yeah.
I'm all on board for the character of Jack.
I think it worked for me a little bit more than you, because I was watching this movie, and I know how you feel, because I feel this a lot too. When a movie doesn't have a satisfying payoff to me when I need it to, it's really a disappointment, and I feel like you really needed a payoff while watching this movie. I actually didn't feel that, which I'm a little surprised by myself. I was just enjoying the ride, and a lot of times when I'm watching a movie... Yeah, it is. A lot of times when I'm watching a movie like this, I'll say to myself halfway through, man, this is a cool movie, but it better have a good payoff or I'm not going to really like it. I didn't do that with this movie, and I'm almost proud of myself. I didn't really feel that urge to want a huge payoff. So while I do think they could have gone... You keep saying they could have gone bigger. I just think they maybe could have gone in a different direction. Almost, like I said, the whole Lily with the head splitting open and the electrical charges.
That was a bad decision. Decision, I think.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't like the lightning bolts either.
Because I'm always, you know, this was a super low budget movie. So when we say like, I wish they went bigger and bigger and bigger, like we have to realize that that's not always.
But it's almost like
practical.
Take away the lightning bolts and just have her do some fucking creepy shit with her like head intact and kill these people and kill them maybe. Put the budget more towards like killing him, like give him a couple minutes, don't
like
kill
the
him
kills,
all in 5 seconds.
Instead
like,
of
don't
her.
kill him all in 5 seconds. Boom, boom, boom.
So
instead of her with the lightning shit. I don't like the light. I don't know how you feel about that. I didn't like the.
I didn't really love it. No, I didn't really love it. I mean, that we got some of it earlier on in the movie, and it was building up to that, so. Right. It fits with the movie, but I think I would have changed that.
It fits with the hokiness of the movie, but I for me personally, I'm like, you could have done something else hokey and it would have been cooler. And again, you're ruining our like villain's face. One of the villains. She's not the main villain of the movie, but you know what I mean?
I think what would have encapsulated that sense of dread that we kind of get at the very end with Jack was if Lily, it was more of a massacre and she killed like people in the audience.
That's what I wanted too.
You know, we got more kills. Yes. You want longer kills. I kind of just wanted more mayhem. I feel like she only killed a couple people and everyone else kind of got out alive.
She killed everyone on stage and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could have been better if she like killed like almost everyone that was there and then we get that montage with Jack. I think that would have
now
been...
you're making me want. Now I even want more from this movie that you just said that. Like that would have been awesome. Her going in the stands and like killing some. Oh my god. Oh, what a fucking movie that could have been. But yeah, I almost think that June also got killed like too quick. Like her death was cool, but like let's build that up a little bit. Like again, like we know Gus is getting taken out, which is his death was cool. All the deaths were cool, but like they were taken out just like that. Damn it, just to get to Jack's big ending, which I know it's about Jack, but again, we got there too fast.
Well, I will
love
say,
once we get to the Jack ending.
I will say my favorite kill was definitely Carmichael. So we've been talking about Carmichael this whole time. I fucking love that as soon as shit hits the fan and her head splits open, he instantly goes to his knees and starts worshiping this fucking demon. Like he is completely 180'd. Not even like 180'd in a terrified way, 180'd in a I want to serve you, please spare me way. It was I loved it. It was so funny. And then of course he like burns from the inside. I guess they like melts him from the inside like with hellfire or whatever. I thought that was a cool kill. That was definitely the highlight.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. All the kills were cool. It's just when we get there. I like June's kill too. I didn't know if they're gonna have I didn't know if they're just gonna get killed off or not. But I'm like, all right, cool. They killed her off right away. I'm literally right away as well. So I like her telekinetic powers too, Lily. You know, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of foreshadowed, right, with June, how she was talking about how like people can have telekinesis and stuff, and she got her PhD in some hokey university. Carmichael said, I forget what the university was called.
But yeah, Lily killing the audience members would have been fucking badass. Now, oh my god, that would have been so fucking.
It doesn't bother me as much, but I do agree with you. I think that would have been a cooler payoff for the viewer, for sure.
Yeah, and then you can still cut back and still give Jack his big ending because obviously we knew it's always going to end up with him, which that's my favorite part of the ending as well. We'll get the Jack.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about that. Yeah,
the Twilight, like you said, the Twilight Zone of it all. And him just, like, coming to the realization. I just think David Dastmalchian is just fantastic. And it's interesting because you feel for him in the finale because he's... I know, obviously, when you go back to his wife, and he's realizing that his wife died because of this, whatever shenanigans ritual he did. Like, that's what the sacrifice was, as his wife. So he's realizing this, that he was responsible for the person who he cared about the most, when he was just thinking about how could I be a successful, like famous and successful. So I think it's a fascinating character arc for him because you feel bad for him, but you're also like, dude, that's what you get when you try to be the big guy in town and you fuck around with this shit and you go to the Grove and you're doing these rituals, even though he didn't, you know, quote unquote believe in them, but you know, there's some cult shit going on. Don't fuck with that, man. But I like how you said he goes in and out of like his past TV. I just think it was filmed, like this was the best directed segment of the movie as well.
Yeah.
I think that was really cool, and I do obviously. I mean, I knew when Madeline comes to him, he's like, you know, please end it, please end this for me, you know, take the.
Oh yeah, you see the dagger. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew what was happening. I knew obviously when he was stabbing Madeline, obviously he was really gonna kill. I mean, it was all orchestrated, so I knew that he really wasn't doing that for Madeline. He was gonna end up stabbing Lily. And that's how the episode, his late night broadcast ends with friggin' him stabbing Lily. So, I like the ending a lot. I really, really like the ending a lot. It's just getting there. David Dastmalchian just really sells it. He's so good. And like you said, his like screams at the end, ooh, so good. I haven't seen him in a performance like this.
How did you interpret him killing Lily? Like, what do you think the purpose of that was, like, in terms of the Grove and stuff? Do you think they needed another sacrifice? Because they already got Madeline. Do you think they needed him to have blood on his hands?
I think so, and I also think because she was like the sole survivor or whatever, they kind of had to close that loop of whatever thing she was involved with. I do think he needed to have someone's own blood on his hands to like complete the ritual or something, and she was the one who had this past trauma and traumatic event, so who's better than to bring this, you know, wacko into it. Yeah, I agree. I think that that was part of there was their plan the whole night.
Oh yeah, I mean, never trust a cult. I think that's the tagline for this movie, because they promised them the rating, right? They promised them the ratings, and he got it all right. It's the most infamous episode ever, but it's because he fucking murdered a little girl who also didn't have a head and was killing people, but also was that actually happening? That takes you back full circle
question.
because, you know, he kills Lily and you look around, it does a zoom out of the stage, and did Jack do all of those deaths? It almost seems to me like he might have killed everyone on stage. I don't know how you interpreted that because Lily is back to her old body of just this girl. Everyone else is kind of dead on the stage. There's no real signs of all the paranormal stuff that happened, and it's just the aftermath. So the way I almost interpret it is he was being almost hypnotized this entire time, and that whole Carmichael skit was actually, you know, foreshadowing for Jack that the Grove had a hold of him almost the entire time. And, you know, maybe they had to kill Lily because she was in the hands of June and they were trying to, you know, research her, and they were starting to figure out a little bit too much, and because she was the sole survivor. So I think that's an interesting angle too.
I like that theory. I think that's cool because obviously hypnosis is also a big theme of the movie. Yeah. I do like almost wish though that like canon that shit did happen, because I'm just like almost like, oh, then if it was a hypnosis, then we really could have gone fucking wild with this movie. But I'm more on the side of like the events probably happened, and I think he might have just killed Lily. But again, open to interpretation. But that's a cool theory, and you know, the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, oh, this movie really could have been something for me if you get, because it does have very interesting ideas, but I don't think it doesn't pick a lane and go full throttle with, you know, any of them besides the character of Jack. That's fascinating, that theory. I like it.
Yeah. I kind of thought of it the first time, but I kind of compartmentalized it like, it was probably just like a stylistic choice to have her like as Lily. But then the second time I watched it, I'm like, it could be something there, you know. I'm
because you know what I mean, like the whole how it plays out, it's almost like, yeah, that's what we expected the whole time. That, you know, the cult's gonna be there, you know, they're doing something, messing with Jack, and he's gonna end up killing some. It's almost like the movie, the beginning, you know, if they didn't have the little hints that like the movie played out exactly, like it's almost laid out, like this is what's gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is how it's gonna end. Yeah. So that would be cooler if it was something, you know, if they did really something wacky and went off the rails. But just his performance alone to me makes the ending worth it, so I'll let it pass.
So it sounds to me like you really don't have like issues with this movie, like the first and second act. It's if the payoff was better for you and went all the way, like the rest of the movie would have worked for you too.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm fine. You know, I'm fine with movies that have build up. It's just, you know, if a movie
but this, your major thing is the payoff didn't. Like that's your major.
Pretty much once after the lightning bolts, you know, and all that shit, when she goes full crazy until Jack's, you know, big ending doesn't work for me. And some of the possession scenes in the beginning, like I said, I thought could have gone a little more crazy, and, you know, nothing lived up to, like, we could have got another couple crazy scenes like the Gus shit, like, you know, something wacky. But I mean, I would say this movie to me it's a cool movie, but it's good and cool, but it's nothing great to me, you know. I mean, because of what in my head, I'm like, oh, what could have been. Even if you kept it at this low budget, I'm not saying that it need to be bigger, but they could have just like tweaked some things.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just kind of I look at this differently, and I take out different stuff than you do. So you wanted something a little bit different. I almost don't give it a pass, but I think that's a little less important because the set design and the vibes were all there throughout the whole movie. That's the strength that I lean on with this movie, which is why I love it. So that's my takeaway from this movie. It's not that it had a disappointing payoff. It's that whole vibe. Like I said, this movie is a vibe, and I think that's why it really resonated with people. And
100%.
Yeah, I just think we kind of we see it almost the same way. We just wanted a little bit different things out of it, and maybe those strengths don't carry the movie as much for you as they do for me. So
yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Okay, cool. That was Late Night with the Devil. That was a fun discussion. Let's get into our never split up moments, which I do not have a moment. I forgot to think of one.
I forgot to do it as well.
Shit. Okay. So who wants to go first? This is a tricky one
too. This is so tricky because you can go because I'm just thinking throughout the movie right now. I don't know if I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have. Yeah, you go. refresh me.
I kind of want you to go first because I feel like I'm
Okay.
gonna maybe take your moment, and I
I
feel
don't
bad,
even know.
but
I really don't. You can take it because I don't even know if I have one. You go first.
okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with your boy Gus.
Oh,
Gus, man,
agreeing
you
to
feel
that.
bad for him, but he's kind of a bit of a pussy. Like, dude, you know something's going on. We already know that a few crew members have left because they say the producer says that some crew members have left. Gus should have gotten the fuck out of there. He was super uncomfortable, and you could tell there was definitely some power dynamics there and some abuse on the producer's part. I forget the guy's name. I don't even know if he has a name. That one dude who's kind of running the show with the longer hair. But he kind of gives him that pep talk where he's like, where's that grin? Where's that grin? Oh, there it is. Now go out there and put on a show. So I feel like Gus in that moment should have stood up for himself and should have not gone out there, and maybe he would be alive today. So I'm going to go with Gus not kind of sticking up for himself.
okay. I like that. I guess I'll go with June doing her June thing because again, she brings this little girl on when she knows the girl is going to be taken advantage of to get this possession of her. So I think that after like the second instance of a she should have been like, all right, we're shutting this down and we're leaving. This is it's unprofessional what she's doing. So I will say like maybe after the second time that the demons brought out a little bit, June should have just shut it down and been like, we're stopping, because honestly, she's a culprit in leading to the death of herself and these other people on stage. So I'm gonna go with June, not doing her job. I would say pretty much not being a caretaker. So
you cut her more slack than I
exploiting
do.
her.
I don't even think she should have been there with Lily to begin with.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
she tells Jack.
Her
Oh yeah, she tells Jack that like she's been a little bit more unpredictable. I don't think this is a good idea. Well, why the fuck?
So
did
she
you
knows.
You knew. You knew Lily was gonna get exploited. So yeah, I agree with that
June,
for sure.
I'll go with June, that bitch.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, I knew there was gonna be a little bit more like unconventional picks because this isn't.
It's not like a slasher or anything.
Yeah. So.
Or people being like dumb in the woods like last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's save your score because I did my score last time, and I thought that was a fun reaction. So I'll go first. I borderline love this movie. Again, it's very fresh. I've only seen it a couple times, but I could definitely see, and it kind of put me at ease that this last time I watched it that it is rewatchable. Like I said, I was a little concerned that it wouldn't be, but I think it is for me. I think David Dastmalchian puts on an unbelievable performance that is going to go down in recent history as one of the better performances as a leading man. And like you said, I hope he gets more opportunities because of this. That would be cool. I think the movie really has staying power, and it does enough right. I think the reason this movie is good is it's the sum of all of its parts. It's not a single thing that makes it great. So because maybe there was a little bit of a letdown with, the ending, that doesn't matter as much because every other part kind of lifts it up for me. And it does enough right to really work for me. And I had a ton of fun watching this for the first time, especially. That was a really, really cool, unique. I remember sitting there watching this saying, this is a really cool fucking movie. They really nailed this. For somewhat unknown directors and actors for the most part. And I'm sure the crew is not super experienced because it is a lower budget movie. They really knocked it out of the park, and I was really impressed. So I kudos to all the cast and crew and everyone who made this movie. I think they really set out what they wanted to do, and I think they nailed it. Whether it works for you or it doesn't, I think you have to give them props for that. So I'm going to give this movie a solid. My score is going to be an 8.3.
Okay, you're in the 8s. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, cool. Yeah, I respect that 100%. Before we get into it, I want to bring up, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up because you know how I am with title drops, but I do love the title drop in this movie as well, because it feels like a broadcast. I love how the guy in the beginning with his, broadcaster voice, late night with the devil.
Yeah. It flows into the title drop so
well.
Perfectly. Yeah, I agree.
So I was like, ooh, that's why I'm so pulled into this movie. But I think it nails the 70s aesthetic And again, I think that's why a lot of people are talking about it, which is fine. I love it. I think David Delzmachin is a great leading actor, and he has a really like complex. He's a complex lead character, and I appreciate that in my movies. So I love him. I think he did great. Can't wait to see him hopefully do more horror. But I don't think it's scary. And again, it's not every horror. People scary is different to everybody. So this movie has cool gags and cool effects, but it's not scary. It's a fun movie. It's cool. I think what I'm gonna probably end up doing is probably put it in my rotation in October because it takes place on Halloween, and maybe hopefully it grows on me. I'll probably throw it in between like a creep show episode or something because that's what it feels like to me. I do think the buildup is cool. Could have used a little bit more cool possession scenes. Not even cool possession, just like her in the moment. Maybe like talking more shit or whatever. I don't know. Just live in that moment a little bit longer. And I think that once we got to the kills, I think that's really where it really failed to win me over. Again, I don't like split head possessed girl. Like she was creepy without that. But I do think the death scenes are cool. I just think they could have been more. I would say the right word is extended. Like let's live in it a little bit more. And I think that now that you brought up the whole her killing the audience, I'm like that's all I want from this movie now is a sequence of that. But yeah, I think where it finally ended, it worked at the beginning, and the very very end worked for me. It's just the build up was fine, and then like the slight payoff was just didn't do too much for me. But yeah, I would say this. I would describe it as a cool movie. That's how I describe this movie. There's another Shudder movie, The Cleansing Hour, which kind of deals with live broadcast exorcism as well, and that goes like full camp corny too, and I do prefer that one to this. So we'll have to cover that movie eventually, so you can compare the two. But I do think that one to me is more fun, and it goes full like bloody, gory, crazy fun. But this is a cool movie. It transports you back to the 70s. I think I'm gonna give it a 6.7.
Oh, so close. I was hoping you were giving it a 6.66.
I was gonna do that, but I'm like, I was gonna do 6.7. Like, you know what? It's a little, it's more than like mid sixes. It's getting towards
triple six. Okay,
yeah,
all right. Well, we'll round up and we'll do 6.7.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. That's kind of. I'm not surprised. I was thinking like mid sixes for you as we were talking about this.
Don't
episode,
hate it,
so.
Just don't love it. I like it. You know what I mean? I'm someone who likes it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Maybe it'll crack the sevens for you a few years down the line.
Yeah,
we'll
maybe
see.
when I keep watching it around like the Halloween season, I'll be like, ooh, this is a cool vibe. Again, this movie's a vibe. Like you said, it's a complete vibe.
Yeah.
But I like that. I had fun discussing it with you. So
for sure, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We're not sure what our next episode's going to be. We have to discuss that off air, if you will. But stay tuned and follow us on social media at neversplituppod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook. And please subscribe to our YouTube. I saw we just got over 150 subscribers. So thank you so much, all of our YouTube listeners and watchers, for subscribing and commenting on the videos. And please like the video if you're watching on YouTube. That helps the algorithm a lot. The algorithm is very tricky on YouTube, and I haven't even come close to figuring it out or what the rhyme or reason is. And so anything helps. So we really appreciate it, guys. And keep a lookout for our polls as well. We run a lot of polls, and
we got a lot of polls to post.
We like to hear from you guys. What did you think of Late Night with the Devil? Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Where does it kind of rank early on in 2024? It's a lot of people's favorites so far of the year. We didn't really talk about that, where it kind of lands. Maybe we'll save that for our end of the year list. It is kind of early enough. Where
does it land right now for you?
I have a disclaimer, and I've talked about this with you because I have a baby. I have not been able to see as many new releases, especially in theaters. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen movies like The First Omen, like Abigail. So some of the bigger releases I haven't seen. I just recently saw Immaculate. So I finally knocked that off. I would put this probably top 2. I love Lisa Frankenstein as well. So those are probably my top 2 for me. Talk about vibes. Those are 2 movies that give off amazing vibes. And I think Lisa Frankenstein maybe pulls it off a little bit better with the story. So I maybe would give that the slight edge.
Okay.
But we'll see. We have a long way to go. We have a lot more releases coming down the pipeline this year. I know you're super excited about Maxine, so we'll got to cover that this summer, so that'll be fun.
There's a lot of Long Legs too. Looks fucked up. I cannot wait for Long Legs.
Yeah, my biggest one, this is Nosferatu. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we got a week till freaking December though.
Love me some Robert Eggers. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait to do our ranking until after that movie
comes out. Yeah,
after
you have
Christmas,
movies to catch up. You have a lot of movies to catch up on. So do I. I don't have a kid, and I'm still not caught up on. So I can't blame you.
It's tough. It's tough. But yeah, guys, let us know. Let us know what you think about this movie, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next time to the Never Split Up podcast. Bye.